You know that feeling in a parking lot after something bad happens? It's not just empty. It's the kind of quiet you get after all the noise is gone. The screaming, the sirens, the witnesses giving their statements and finally going home. All that's left is yellow tape, some broken glass sparkling on the asphalt in the morning sun, and a question nobody can answer. A question the people who loved Riley Jones will keep asking for the rest of their lives. How does a regular Tuesday morning, bright, ordinary, unremarkable, turn into the day someone's whole world falls apart? This is Riley's story. And like so many of these stories, it starts with a life that was just beginning. Riley Simone Jones was born on July 10th, 2005, a summer baby, and everyone who knew her says she came out smiling and pretty much never stopped. She was the ninth of 10 kids, so she grew up in a house that was probably never quiet, full of noise and chaos and love, the kind of home where you learn early how to share, how to fight, how to forgive, how to show up for the people you care about. Riley learned all of that really well. She graduated from Shaker Heights High School in 2023. Her family was so proud, and like a lot of 20-year-olds, she was still figuring out what she wanted to do with her life, but the direction was getting clearer. She started working at Target, but she quickly realized retail wasn't for her. Instead, she moved toward jobs where she could take care of others, working with kids who had special needs, and then as a valet at the Cleveland Clinic. She told her family she wanted to be a nurse someday. And if you knew Riley, that made perfect sense. She was wired for compassion. Her family said she had this gift for making people feel welcome, included, and loved. But her care wasn't just about work. When her mom got cancer, Riley stepped up in a way that's hard to describe. During her mother's final months in 2024, Riley was there, taking care of her, comforting her, showing a kind of strength that most people her age never have to find. After her mom passed, Riley just kept pouring that love into her family. She was Auntie Riley, the one who took her nieces and nephew to daycare every morning, who showed up for bedtime hugs, who spent sleepless nights helping her sister with a newborn baby. Her love wasn't loud or for show. It was quiet, steady, always there. And that's what makes what happened next so hard to accept. The man Riley had been dating was named Darien Hobley. He was 22, from Maple Heights, another suburb in the greater Cleveland area. On the surface, their relationship probably looked like any other young romance. Two people in their early 20s figuring out life and work and what it means to be in love. But underneath, something was building, something her family wishes they had seen. Riley's cousin, Kenesha Jackson, later told reporters she hadn't noticed any red flags or signs of abuse. And that fact still haunts her. What things do we look out for, she asked. What do these signs look like? Monday, August 4th, 2025. It was already warm that morning. Just after 10 a.m., the parking lot at the AutoZone on 330 Broadway Avenue in Bedford, Ohio, was starting to fill up with people picking up parts, running errands, living their normal lives. But something was happening that nobody in that lot was ready for. It started miles away, in Maple Heights, an argument between Darien Hobley and Riley Jones. We don't know exactly what the argument was about, but investigators later said one of them followed the other to the AutoZone parking lot, and that's where things turned deadly. By the time they got to the AutoZone, the situation had gotten much worse. Surveillance footage later shown in court painted a clear picture. Riley, in her own car, followed Hobley into the lot and blocked his car in. She was clearly upset. She got out, walked to his driver's side door, and opened it. What happened next took only seconds. According to the judge who later sentenced Hobley, the door opens and she leans in the car, and within seconds, a shot's fired and she's on the ground. One gunshot to the chest, a 9mm round from what investigators later identified as a ghost gun, a firearm with no serial number, untraceable, put together from separate parts. The parking lot exploded into chaos. Terrified witnesses ran for cover. One 911 caller, his voice shaking, told the dispatcher, "I am at the Bedford AutoZone. I just watched a guy shoot a girl." Another witness said he stepped around a truck and saw the man standing over her body, the gun still in his hand. And then came the moment that made this crime so strange. Darien Hobley, after shooting Riley Jones in the chest, didn't run. Not right away. Instead, he walked calmly into the AutoZone store and told the employees, "Just matter of fact, you better call 911." Then he walked back outside, stood over the body of the woman he had just shot, and only then, finally, ran off on foot. Officers from the Bedford Police Department got there within minutes. They found Riley Jones unresponsive, lying on the hot asphalt, a single gunshot wound to her chest. Bedford Fire Department paramedics rushed her to South Point Hospital in Warrensville Heights, but there was nothing they could do. At the hospital, Riley Simone Jones, 20 years old, a daughter, a sister, an auntie, a friend, was pronounced dead. Finding the shooter didn't take long. Hobley had run off on foot, but his escape was blocked by bad luck. His car was stuck behind another vehicle, so he had no choice but to run. Officers quickly set up a perimeter and started searching the nearby streets. Within minutes, they found him, just one street over, on Magnolia Avenue. He didn't fight. He didn't run. According to Deputy Chief Rick Sutz, Hobley just gave up without any resistance. But there was one problem. He didn't have the gun. The investigation was methodical and fast. Bedford police gathered surveillance footage from the AutoZone and nearby businesses, piecing together the timeline. They interviewed multiple witnesses who had seen the argument, heard the gunshot, watched what happened next, and they started asking a critical question. Where was the murder weapon? Investigators had already found one key piece of evidence, shell casings that matched the 9mm round that killed Riley. But the gun itself was gone. The breakthrough came when Hobley himself gave them the answer. During questioning, he made admissions that would end up sealing his fate. He admitted that he had gotten rid of the weapon after the shooting, and he told officers exactly where to find it. He had thrown it into a nearby sewer. Officers recovered the gun, a ghost gun, made from separate parts with no serial number, almost impossible to trace. The forensic evidence told a clear and devastating story. The autopsy from the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed what witnesses and surveillance footage had already shown. Riley Jones died from a single gunshot wound to the chest. The bullet was fired at close range, matching the testimony that she was leaning into the car when the shot went off. Blood on Hobley's clothing when he was arrested also put him at the scene, close to the victim. But alongside the forensic evidence, something else came out. A picture of a man whose story kept changing. When Hobley was first taken into custody, he had blood on his clothes and no good explanation. As detectives questioned him more, he started building a story that made him out to be the victim, not the killer. He told officers that Riley had been at his house on Libby Road before the shooting, that she wouldn't leave him alone, that she had followed him in her own car to the AutoZone, where he was planning to buy a battery. He claimed that when she reached into his car, he was afraid because he thought she was reaching for a gun. His exact words, recorded in the police report, "She put her arm in my car, and I just shot." But that version didn't hold up. The surveillance footage showed no sign that Riley was armed or trying to reach for a weapon. She opened his car door. Yes, that's an act of confrontation, but not a lethal threat. Within seconds of that door opening, the gun went off. The sequence didn't look like self-defense. It looked like a man who kept a loaded, untraceable gun within reach in his car and who used it almost instantly against an unarmed young woman who had no way to protect herself. The question that investigators, prosecutors, and the public kept coming back to was simple. Why? Why did an argument between two young people end in murder in an AutoZone parking lot on a Monday morning? Hobley would later offer his own explanation in court, and it was as weak as it was revealing. He told the judge he didn't want to hurt her, that he carried the gun regularly, that when Riley reached toward him, he got scared. And then came maybe the most telling line of all. After the shooting, he didn't run to get help. He didn't stay to try to save her. He walked away because, in his own words, he just needed a new scenery. Those words, "I just needed a new scenery," said by a man who had just shot his girlfriend to death in a public parking lot, capture something important about this case. This wasn't a crime of passion in the way we usually think of it. It was a crime of detachment. In the moment of ultimate crisis, he wasn't thinking about the life he had just taken. He was thinking about his own need for a change of view. and the weapon he used, a ghost gun, untraceable, suggested some level of forethought that didn't match a claim of pure panic. This was someone who kept deadly force at his fingertips and used it in an instant of anger or frustration, with catastrophic results. The legal process moved quickly. On August 5, 2025, just one day after the shooting, Darien Hobley appeared in Bedford Municipal Court for his arraignment. He pleaded not guilty to aggravated murder. Bond was set at $2 million. Less than a week later, on August 11th, a Cuyahoga County grand jury issued a formal indictment. 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of felonious assault, and 1 count of tampering with evidence. The case was sent to the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas, where it was assigned to Judge Holly Gallagher. Hobley appeared by teleconference from the county jail for his arraignment. His attorney, Michael Nelson, argued that his client had strong ties to the community and wasn't a flight risk. The judge disagreed, keeping Bond at $1 million and ordering that if Hobley did make bond, he would have to wear a GPS monitor and have no contact with the victim's family. As the case moved toward trial, the evidence against Hobley kept building. Surveillance video, witness testimony, the recovered ghost gun, and his own statements to police all pointed to one clear conclusion. This was not self-defense. This was a killing. But as the scheduled trial date in February 2026 got closer, the case took an unexpected turn. On February 2, 2026, exactly 6 months after Riley's death, Darien Hobley changed his plea. He pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of involuntary manslaughter, along with tampering with evidence. The murder charges were dropped as part of the plea deal. This was bittersweet for Riley's family. A guilty plea meant they wouldn't have to go through a trial. No graphic testimony, no autopsy photos, no slow, painful reliving of the worst day of their lives. But it also meant that the man who killed their daughter, their sister, their auntie, their friend, would serve a lot less time than a murder conviction would have carried. On February 24, 2026, Darien Hobley stood before Judge Holly Gallagher to be sentenced. It was in that courtroom that the full emotional weight of the tragedy finally found its voice. Hobley spoke directly to the court, apologizing to Riley's family and insisting he never meant to hurt her. But Judge Gallagher wasn't interested in his excuses. She addressed him directly. This is why people Mr. Hobley's age shouldn't have a weapon. They are not operating on all cylinders yet. This is a really tragic case. It's just awful. Then came the sentence, 8 to 10.5 years in prison, followed by 2 years of mandatory parole after release. For a life taken, for Riley Jones, who would never become a nurse, never hold her nieces and nephews again, never walk into a room and light it up with her smile. The man responsible would spend less than a decade behind bars. After the sentencing, the community kept trying to make sense of the tragedy. Riley's family turned their grief into action, speaking out about intimate partner violence, which is far more common than people realize. Her cousin Kenesha Jackson's words became a rallying cry. Her life was cut short like a flower that never really got to flourish. The family urged others, friends, siblings, parents, to check in on the people they love, to ask hard questions, to recognize that sometimes the most dangerous threat to a young woman's life isn't a stranger in a dark alley. It's the person sitting next to her in the car, the person who claims to love her. A GoFundMe campaign to cover funeral expenses and support the family brought in donations from all over the country, 94 contributions in total, over $7,000. But more important than the money was the message that came with it. The family wrote, "We share Riley's story not only to honor her life, but to raise awareness. If her story helps even one person recognize the signs of abuse, leave a harmful situation, or reach out to someone in need, then her voice will not be silenced." Riley's funeral was held on August 15, 2025, 11 days after she died. The Church of the North Coast in Valley View, Ohio, was filled with family, friends, former classmates, co-workers, and community members who came to remember a young woman whose life had barely started. She was buried at Evergreen Memorial Park Cemetery. The stone that marks her grave has her name and the dates that frame her time here: July 10, 2005, August 4, 2025, 20 years and 25 days. The case of Riley Jones is technically closed. Darien Hobley is serving his sentence in an Ohio prison. He'll be eligible for parole in about 8 years, at which point he'll be in his early 30s, with most of his adult life still ahead of him. Riley, of course, will still be 20 years old. She will always be 20 years old. And so we're left with the questions, the ones that stay after the news crews pack up and leave. What if someone had noticed the warning signs earlier? The controlling behavior, the volatility, the patterns that so often come before intimate partner homicide. What if that gun, that untraceable ghost gun, had never been in that car to begin with? What if that argument on that Monday morning had ended differently, with slammed doors and angry words and a chance to cool off, instead of a gunshot? What would Riley Jones be doing today? On August 4th, 2025, in a parking lot on Broadway Avenue in Bedford, Ohio, under a morning sun that would soon be replaced by police lights and yellow tape, a 20-year-old woman took her last breath on asphalt that should never have been the stage for her final moments. Her name was Riley Simone Jones. She was someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's auntie, someone's friend. She wanted to be a nurse. She had a smile that filled every room she walked into. And her story, her life, her death, and the silence afterward is a reminder that the line between ordinary and unthinkable is thinner than any of us want to believe. And once that line gets crossed, there's no going back.